Testing, testing. Greetings to you all. Quick introduction to my subscribers mainly, because this is the first time I've actually talked with commentary. Greetings to others who might be looking for a new channel to help you with getting to grips with the ins and outs of Elite Dangerous. I expect we all wish we had time to play. I have finally mustered up the courage to talk to you directly. Hopefully there won't be viewers wishing, if you'd stuck with on-screen text instead of this. But it is what it is. Hopefully you can understand me and what I'm saying. I'm actually getting a bit nervous talking to you. How ludicrous is that? Anyway, right, I'm from the north of the UK, not quite... Hello, Scottish man, you far north. I'm not quite that far north. Hopefully you can understand my northern accent. If you can understand Scot, then you should be tuned into the northern dialect. I doubt my delivery will be anything like Scots, but I will improve my commentary for sure, with more practice. Most of this is recorded live in action, but there'll no doubt be a few edits here and there. And there won't be too many ums and ahs and sound monotone. I'll try not to get too carried away and go on all Geordie on you either. Oh, give a gun of your anaconda, mister! You'll not be getting any of that. No disrespect to Geordies, of course, you simply wouldn't understand a single word of what I'm saying. A few plugs, firstly, get them out of the way since I'm talking to you for the first time. Some credit to a few YouTube channels that I should at least pay respect to. Isanona, of course, or Isanona, I'm not quite sure how you're supposed to pronounce his name. Isanona sounds better. But anyway, I've learned so much from studying this guy's videos on his channel. If you've been living in a cave with no internet, or I've recently got into Frontier's latest, Dangerous, in their Elite franchise, then you need to check out his channel. He's a maestro in pirating with flight assist off, and inspired me to learn. Another channel that's good, that I certainly recommend you check out, is Cornelius Breedis. Cornelius Breedis' channel. If you want to learn about so many things in Elite, really a highly recommended channel to subscribe to. I believe he is Latvian, however he speaks very good English, and you'll learn a great deal from watching his guides. So many others really to mention who specialise in Elite specifically. I've links on my YouTube homepage under feature channels for the ones I feel personally are the best for Elite. I basically suggest these two specifically, Isanona and Cornelius, because I've learned quite a bit just from watching these guys. So, let's get on with it. That was me introducing myself and the plugs out of the way. It's not like I had to do plugs, just being respectful from where some of my skills come from. I won't be doing this in every upcoming post. So, what am I intending to accomplish in this guide for you? Basically, I'm going to show you setting up priorities. Module priority settings. In your module's user interface where it lists all your fitted outfittings. Some of this, certainly for experienced players, will know all this already, but still I've seen so many pilots still not using this function to set priorities for specific modules, and it really does benefit a few things. Particularly in your smaller craft with limited power, even when and after they're fully upgraded with the best power plant. So, what does priority do and what's the point? It is in fact very, very simple. In essence, when your power requirements exceed the available power or available megawatts, to give you the appropriate measurement, of your current power plant that you happen to have fitted, what it dishes out in megawatts, if all your fitted modules' power consumption added up exceeds this, then this is where these priority settings really come in handy. So, the most useful application is after deploying your hardpoints. What you have set in the priority list as a lower or reduced lesser priority than your hardpoints, just so no one gets confused. These at the lowest priority, the highest number will be automatically shut down. It used to be the lowest number, like ones, but now it's the highest. These are the lowest priority on number 5, or whatever you've set as your lowest priority. The normal procedure is turning off modules manually, but with priority set there's no need to cycle down through each and every module you want turned off manually, which obviously takes time, which you don't necessarily want to be doing in combat, certainly mid-battle. So the setting of priorities only works when all your modules' power consumption added up exceeds 100% of your power plant, as seen at the bottom of your module's UI. You see the percentage. An incredibly useful function, ultimately, when your fitted modules, plural, modules, power draws all added up together exceeds or consumes more of the available kilowatts that your power plant kicks out. Like I say, once set up after these priorities, after setting these priorities, the ship, computer, whatever you want to call it, will turn off modules automatically once you've set these priorities up. I've gone a step further using all the available priority groups, all 5 of them. You don't have to do this at first. I've basically just gone a bit anal about it, getting the most out of the whole function, simply with the fact there are 5 priority groups to play with, so I've used them all, which will have certain benefits in a particular battle when power requirements really are on the cusp. An example, I've set my ship's shields module, in its own priority group with nothing else, with it being set as priority 1. So when energy reserves are in demand, mid-battle for instance, and there isn't enough energy reserves for all ship's systems in your system's capacitor, my shields will have priority before anything else, simply because I regard shields as the most valuable to get recharged at its earliest opportunity, really. Then I moved on to thrusters in its own group, number 2, so this would be the next subsequent subsystem module to receive power. So you can use all 5 priority groups if you want. My setup I've found to be the best compromise for most modules, although sometimes I may still flick a few around on the fly, depending if I want heat sinks at the moment more than anything else, for instance. So you'd literally move that to priority 1 and make sure nothing else is in that priority group 1. To do this quickly on the fly, it helps if you have gone a bit anal about it actually, and used all priority groups with just shields on priority 1 instead of having to change many things off priority 1 to get the module you want as the top priority. I hope that makes sense. Ultimately, having few set on the primary end, number 1, and then add whatever you want to the least important end, number 5, one can easily switch these around with little hassle. You don't have to cycle through loads switching off number 1, like switching many off number 1 to get the module you want at the top of the energy list, to get the energy first. So ultimately, once you've set these up, you won't need to mess around much at all on the whole. Once it is set up, it decides what has priority depending on the presets you've made, and then instead of turning modules off if you want to, like you normally would, just add them to your least priority group, the highest number. So as much as it might look confusing with all priority groups, we'll set them all to 1 and 2 so you can see this more clearly. Then you can adapt this to all priority groups if you want to. So if you set everything on priority 1, which it should be as default unless you've had a play about with it already. So yeah, everything on 1, including your critical functions, thrusters, shields, weapons, and perhaps sensors. Pretty critical to have target reticule and radar for that matter. So these criticals and your non-critical functions. So with no priority set, these non-critical functions will be adding strain on your power plant for no reason. And if I deploy weapons, this happens. Why, you say? Because you've given the order to deploy hardpoints, they deploy, and as a consequence of there not being enough power for everything, it all shuts down in a spanner attack and the wheels come off. Okay, so the primary setup for this, as discussed, is after deploying your weapons. However, there are many other ways to configure, I say many other, but there's a few other ways to configure these priorities for a few activities. You could almost use these priorities to deactivate everything once weapons are deployed, for turning everything off for smuggling into a station, for example. At least as a switch to turn most things off you don't need to keep your heat signature right down after launching a heatsink. Deploying hardpoints, even just deployed, used to have an impact on your signature, but it seems to not have an impact now, at least after deploying a heatsink. Brumster did do a test a while back with his buddy, another channel to check out incidentally, Brumster100, which showed just hardpoints being deployed had an impact on his buddy's radar resolve, as in Brumster became an erratic contact on his radar, an erratic contact blip after being invisible on radar. But perhaps things have changed. I'm not in any way saying you should use this setup I'm about to show you, well you can if you want to. I've simply put it in to show you how versatile this priority function is. Here's a quick demo.
Grouping request granted. Deployed.
We're back. Right, so we need to group these into critical functions and non-critical functions. So the non-critical functions get turned off once weapons are deployed. Obviously thrusters, shields and weapons, and for the sake of argument sensors, and we'll include life support now. These are your critical functions. Life support is one that you could turn off. Simply run off the emergency oxygen. If it's in the upper minutes, say over 20 minutes, you could get quite a bit done in combat in 20 minutes. You probably wouldn't be going much longer than that anyway, especially if you're running kinetic hardpoints that need ammo refilling. So you'd have to dock at a station to resupply, and you'll get your emergency oxygen resupply then as well. Perhaps this is going a bit far about things again, but every extra step you make with extra modules turned off and not running will leave more available power for your critical functions, weapons, shields and thrusters. And let's not forget, the less modules you've got turned on will reduce your ship's heat signature, and you'll be harder for radar to track. So everything else other than your shields, thrusters, sensors, weapons, power distributor, life support, everything else is surplus to requirements in combat. Shield cell banks is probably quite critical. You might want to run around with them on, but you can still change your fuel on the fly, don't forget that. Kill warrant scanner is needed before combat, but not during, so you can add this to the lowest priority by switching it just after you've used it, and so it will turn off automatically as soon as you've switched it to the least priority group. So what's left? Whatever is left is useless during combat, so aren't needed. Who needs a cargo scoop, for instance, activated and still turned on during a battle? You don't. Same applies for other modules, like your frameshift drive. You can't use it unless your hardpoints are retracted anyway. Frameshift interdictor, things you definitely don't need on during combat. You can obviously turn these unwanted functions off yourself, but what better way than as soon as you deploy weapons, they're automatically turned off because you've gone over your available power supply. There you go, that's it. Like I say, there are perhaps other setups you could configure, as demonstrated before, the smuggling one. To have just a heatsink launcher, for instance, the only module switched on as soon as you activate deploy hardpoints, useful to get into a station with little hassle while smuggling. If you'd like to see this primary setup, the hardpoints one, continue watching to see a battle taking on a pirate lord again, but in this eagle this time. After I'd set these priorities, because the power plant had much less to do, it really did benefit towards more sustained fire at your target. Keeping on top of power distribution helps massively as well, of course, don't forget that. I did in fact fit 2 sets of shield cell banks, big gear, because I wasn't sure if it was possible with just one set, but I did only use one set in the end. Also, with these priorities deactivating modules automatically, I'm producing less of a heat signature, so I'm harder for the turrets to lock onto. Plus the Eagle is fairly hard to hit anyway because it's so small and agile. Let's not forget the Cobra is nearly as wide as an Anaconda, so probably quite easy to hit with turrets, weapons fire. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe, comment, thumbs up, thumbs down. I'd like to know what you like, dislike, what you're thinking, so I can improve. For those of you who have already commented on my previous videos, I'd just like to say thank you kindly for your input and feedback. I clearly have some really knowledgeable subscribers, so cheers for your help and keep me on my toes. What's coming next in my next upload? You alright, cat? hopefully some player versus player co-op action. I've teamed up with an experienced combat rank expert pilot, Starbucks. We've been trying to bait a few players up as wanted in a particular system to try and get some good player versus player material. So watch this space. Like I say, keep watching now to see the Eagle in combat with these priorities set. It is a capable craft even against an Elite Pirate Lord. I'm really enjoying this core dynamics Eagle.
Charging.